A pilot shortage coming around the corner. Very interesting piece of news. So let's sort of cover what this piece of news is. So basically, a study came out just recently by Oliver Wyman Management Consulting, and what they did is they looked at the pilot market and they found out that from January 2022, which is just under a year's time, we're going to need another 326,000 pilots, and there are only 316,000 going to be available, which means there's going to be a shortfall of 60,000 pilots worldwide. Now, when we look at, for example, US, Southeast Asia, for example, why is this shortage going to happen in the United States? Now, in the United States, a lot of airlines furloughed pilots, others offered pilots early retirement. 20% of the pilots that could take it took it. Now, when a pilot takes early retirement, they usually don't go back to the airline that they were previously working for, because they would have to then start at the bottom of the seniority list. Some of these pilots will go and fly for other airlines. Some will move into the private jet industry. But chances are these guys are in their late 50s, maybe early 60s, and they'll take the money, and it'll be quite a good, early retirement money. If you're making 7,000-8,000 grand a month from your pension, you can go off and do other things. And pilots, when they get to that age, usually have other interests, whether it's real estate or DIY, or working on cars and buying old cars and doing them up and then selling them. There's all sorts of stuff that pilots like to get up to and develop these hobbies and turn the hobby into a business. So chances are, basically, that's what's going to be happening. So I don't see a lot of these experienced pilots coming back to the market. Now, if we look at, for example, Southeast Asia, what's going to be driving the pilot shortage over there is the middle class is growing, and as that middle class grow, they want to travel, and so there's a need for more airlines. In fact, a lot of airline travel is now resumed in that part of the world, and the airline market will recover a lot quicker out there than in Europe or in the US, for example. We already see now domestic United States airlines are starting to call pilots back from furlough, which is good. And people are starting to travel, not just for leisure, but also for business. Europe, that quite hasn't happened yet. But the other factor that's going to play into the pilot shortage, and why the pilot shortage I think is going to get even worse, if we look at a McKinsey report that just came out, that they did on urban air mobility, they're predicting that we're going to need 60,000 pilots for urban air mobility between now and 2028. Now, that's a lot of pilots. And it's going to cost between $4 to $6 billion to train these people. So if we take the 60,000 there, plus the other 60,000, that's 120,000 pilots. So the urban air mobility is opening up a new type of career for a pilot, where you can, it's almost like urban air flying taxis. That's what it's basically going to be. So you can, you're not going to be crossing time zones, staying away from home for a week on layovers. Around the US or around the world and things like that. With urban air mobility, you're able to sort of drive to work, jump in the urban air mobility flying machine, fly up and down for 5 or 6 hours, and then go home. Now, that's going to be interesting. These pilots are going to have to be trained, of course. And, the shortage that's going to be out there. The thing is, what can we do as an industry to attract young people into this? Because one of the big problems right now is the cost of training. The cost of training is high. Of course, now the price of fuel with the new administration in the White House, the price of fuel is going up, which obviously is going to increase the cost per hour. So it's going to be more expensive for someone to go through their flight training. A lot of banks have stopped lending to people that want to be pilots because of, all the what's been going on with the lockdowns and whatnot. So it's difficult for young people to get the funding. So you either go out there and work like I did and put the money away and off you go. When would be a good time to start training? I think, the flight schools are going to kick into gear nicely in 12 to 18 months time. So that would be a good time. So if you haven't quite got the money in place now, start making it. But let's move on to the private jet sector. Now, with these pilots that have been furloughed, or these pilots that have taken early retirement, there could be some out there that are quite happy to fly 200 hours a year on your private jet. And some of them may make a good fit for the private jet industry. Some of these people flew private jets in the past before they joined the airlines, like myself. And so they obviously understand the dynamics of private aviation compared to the airline flying. So they would be suitable. But, what's going to happen, and the way to attract the pilots and to keep them, is to offer them good terms and conditions. So my prediction is the salaries are going to increase, which is going to be good for the pilots. But then as the salaries increase, so do the operating costs of the airplanes. So for those that fly with the airlines and that, tickets are going to be a little bit more expensive. And those that operate private jets, you know, the daily cost of operating the private jet is going to be a bit higher. But, you know, if you're in the private jet space, you shouldn't be worrying about paying the pilot, because if you're spending 20 million on a plane or 30 million on a plane, what's $200,000 a year or $250,000 a year to pay one of the pilots? So anyway, so that's what's happening in the pilot market. Very interesting. On one side, the airlines starting to, you know, recruit again, and on the other side, the urban air mobility sector, which is going to start to increase over the next few years. There's going to be more need for pilots, so it's good for young people that want to come into this profession. For the private jet owner, you know, as I always say, you know, make sure you know, if you find good people, pay them well, give them good terms and conditions. You know, give them a good balance between flying and time at home. This is really important so that you maintain your pilots and keep them with you, and you don't have a revolving door all the time. Because, you know, pilots will go where deals are better, but, you know, if you look after your people, they will stay. And that really is the main message here, and my main analysis on this whole pilot shortage thing and how we can overcome it. So that's all from Fabrizio Poli here on BizJet TV. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to subscribe. Click the notification bell so every time we publish, you'll be notified. And give us a thumbs up on this video and comment below. We'd love to hear from you and hear your comments, your suggestions and recommendations for future videos. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli on BizJet TV, and I'll see you in the next one.